I'm monogamous, but I've been reborn from a non-monogamous lens. Does that make sense?
And I also feel like going through a polyamorous relationship is almost like being in a jealousy boot camp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like whenever I meet people, especially like women particularly, that are like, I never get jealous. I've never been jealous. I'm always like, bull.
Yeah. Sexually, I'm very much mostly monogamous.
Wow.
In the sense of that, like, if I really love someone, they're the only person that I want to have sex with.
Love you. Hell yes. Our producer just tossed me tissues to stuff my bra as well, too. Big yikes.
Do you have abandonment issues?
I do not.
Do you have daddy issues?
No. Well, but here's the thing.
You know, how much have you grown? What's your reach right now? And it's like, I could give a less.
Yeah.
Like for my personal self, like I'm not an influencer. My podcast is an influencer. I'm not an influencer.
But I also feel like the collective of this year has been just kind of like sitting in complacency. Like I don't feel the same momentum or exponential growth or something went viral or whatever it is, XYZ.
I was always comparing my boobs to everyone else's.
Oh my God, I wanted boobs so bad. So bad. And I
had to buy them.
Good for you.
Size though, because this would definitely give me a yeast infection.
I hate going to the gym and I can't stand being set up.
It feels like I just had a one-night stand and I'm like, where's his bed sheet? Oh,
so I was in Highland, California. Is it San Bernardino? Is that the county?
Yeah.
On Thursday for a gig. And then Monday at 10:25 a.m., I get a text that says, "We don't live forever. Remember me on your last breath." And it's from a 747 number. That's San Bernardino. I don't know who.
I feel like you need to do like a protection spell. Have you thought about that?
And the tourmaline isn't working. I have tourmaline. I have whatever the other one is, but I need something. That's creepy, right? That's creepy.
That's beyond creepy.
Especially since I was just in Highland, California. We don't live forever. Remember me on your last breath. Okay.
That's so interesting.
It's very weird, but the internet's a scary place.
No, it is, and I don't like it. You know, I don't. Aside from if it wasn't for my podcast, I don't think I'd be on it much.
Yeah,
you know.
What made you guys get it? Like, I mean, I know you've been in this space, and you're great conversationalists. You guys, you're great like media personalities.
Thank you.
What made you guys start the pod? By the way, the podcast is called Double Teamed. I've been on it. It's about like kink and monogamy and sexual freedom, very sex positive.
Yeah.
Dating.
I mean, it mainly started. We started it as a documentation of like Nikki's open marriage at the time.
Got it.
And one time we were at a bar. You know, it was Nicole and I and this guy I was dating at the time and his friend, and Nicole and I were just talking. And you know, she was telling the two guys about her open relationship, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, you should start a podcast on this." So, and then we just did it.
Yeah.
We just picked up microphones and did it.
And you guys like had a great success. I feel like not early on, but like you guys like I very quickly saw the podcast like jump and like the numbers go up and everyone, yeah.
And that was really nice, I will say. It's very much plateaued right now.
Okay.
In the sense that like it's just very consistent. It's not at a growth stage it's not exponentially growing as it used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind that. I know we've also gone through like ebbs and flows of like how much our energy, like we've been consistent with it, but it's not like our energy going into it has always been 100%.
Yeah.
And so that's always been like a moment of reflection for us, like knowing that like there's going to be ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're the point that we've reached in like the past year, I would say, because like halfway through last year, we were at a point where we both kind of knew like, okay, well, we've been in non-monogamous type of relationships in the past, but we were both seeking monogamous relationships. Yeah. And so we knew that would mean that the podcast would change too. And it's like, and now we're here where it's like, now we're in monogamous relationships. The both of us got in them very quickly in the last few months.
Yeah.
But like we've been telling our fan base that, and then now we'll be making the transition of like, well, I mean, we're not going to be like attending sex parties all the time and stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to see like how
the podcast grows with you.
Yes.
Now that you both have like adapted this lifestyle. Well, because the podcast at its core was about non-monogamy. And now the two hosts are exploring monogamy.
But I think, that, you know, there's still many things to like talk about. And, you know, and I'm excited to see how that goes. Also, just we came to the realization maybe about like a year or so ago as well. We're like, you know what? The podcast is not going to be like forever. Like it's definitely something that for us has brought us a lot of like growth, freedom, community. A lot of different skill sets that we've grown as well has been really nice. You know, but it's not, I don't think it's going to be my legacy.
Okay.
You know, there's definitely other things that I want to accomplish. So I think, you know, because we started the podcast when we were like, what, 27?
Yeah. How old are you now?
Well, 30. I'm about to turn 31. And I feel like my life has changed so drastically these past 4 years.
Yeah, I think everyone's has, to be honest. I mean, not to like, you know, downplay your own experiences or anything, but I think the pandemic, I feel, has accelerated everyone's career changes, life changes, moves, their perspectives, who they are. Like, I thought I had gone through like a really aggressive, accelerated personal growth when I like got out of my last relationship, which was a couple years ago now, which you know was like incredibly abusive and really scary. And I mean, that was a lot of accelerated growth quickly. And then once I felt like as if I was kind of settled and starting to heal, I was like then I was like pursuing stand-up and a pandemic happened. So yeah, I think all of us, like, I mean, you see those memes on the internet that are like, all of us in early 2020, and then it's like all of us now. And it goes from like young, youthful to like decrepit old person. Like we all have like jumped like a century into like
it's so weird.
It's very weird, but I attribute it to that. And you know, there's something that you touched on that has been like a theme for me this year. And I've talked about it on the pod a lot. So I'm gonna try to like find a new way to reframe it. But about like where like the podcast is in like a plateau stage and you're like, it's great and it's where it is. And we may not know what the next step forward is, but we're not experiencing that like exponential growth or going viral or that initial excitement. And I've been feeling that with my comedy career, interestingly enough. Like I'm very happy. And like I'm on tour and there's been a lot of really good things this year. But I also feel like the collective of this year has been just kind of like sitting in complacency. Like I don't feel the same momentum or exponential growth or something went viral or whatever it is, XYZ. So I've had to kind of learn to like rewire my brain to be like, it's okay. You're still moving forward. You're still doing great. It doesn't mean you should quit. It doesn't mean you should. Because I think we also grow up in a country that's so addicted to like adrenaline and wins. And
that dopamine hit. That
my God.
That everyone chases.
And if you don't get it or you're not on to the next accomplishment, I blame that also with like traditional school systems because everything that we learn growing up is like, well, go to school, get an A, get a prize, get into gifted, pass the exam.
With the little stars first grade.
It really does. It's literally like a behavioral like reward system. And then when you're an adult and you're free of that structure and you're left to your own devices, it can be really easy to feel like I'm not fucking doing anything. You know, because you're setting your own benchmark. So that's, I mean, it's interesting that you feel that way about the pod because like I'm just trying, you know, I feel that way about my comedy career.
Well, and I think I like what everything you just said in the sense of that, like it always does feel like you have to be chasing that next high, that next reward, that next moment, you know, when in reality, and I think, you know, having the podcast be, you know, my child and, you know, watching how it's, you know, manifested.
What stages it's going through.
Stages that it's gone through in time. You know, I've really realized just to be okay with how things flow. And that's one, of course, like we want to be, you know, controlling and, you know, you know, some people are wired that way where it's just like you want that control you need. Exactly. And it's just like, no, sometimes you just got to let things flow, see how it goes, you know, and be okay if it, you know, it takes a moment to like dip. It'll come back up. If you're consistent with something, and you still give it love, like it's going to
Move
come back
forward.
up. Yeah.
It's also like I always use the metaphor that it's like a cruise ship too.
Yeah.
Like when you're on a cruise ship, it's so big and massive and you're out literally at sea in like the middle of nowhere, and you can kind of trick yourself into thinking you're not moving or nothing's happening or you're stuck, but like you're still moving.
No,
it's just on a different scale, so you're not going to feel it the way you would on a steamboat, right? Or something. Yeah.
I think there's been so many moments in the past few years where it's like I think like, oh my God, like I'm stuck, or what's going on? What am I doing? I don't understand.
It's been all year for me.
Yeah. And but then like you look back and you're like, wow, look at where I've gone from the last place. you know? So it's like it is like a cruise ship. Like you are actually moving forward. Time is going to take you with it. Like,
you're just maybe not going at 200 miles an hour.
Which is fine. You know, that's one thing that I love and hate about living in LA. I love the fact that I feel like LA has really transformed me, has pushed me, has given me a new, like, has really rewired the way that I look at work, the way I look at money, the way I look at, you know, ability and like what you can actually bring to the table. And I love that, you know, because like right now, like I have a, you know, the podcast and my job within the podcast, like it gives me so much freedom and the lifestyle that I want.
That's awesome. Is that what you do full time? Like for like, is it like content creation in the pod?
And ad sales for the pod
Oh,
and for other podcasts too.
Oh, that's great.
So that all that provides me my incomes. You know, and I love that. And it's, you know, it's rewired me differently. But, you know, the one thing that I hate about LA is also just the fact that on the flip side, it's like, it feels like everyone's doing way more.
Yeah.
There's that constant hustle, hustle, hustle. How many followers do you have? Like, you know, how many DMs are you getting? You know, how much have you grown? What's your reach right now? And it's like, I could give a shit less.
Yeah.
Like for my personal self, like I'm not an influencer. My podcast is an influencer. I'm not an influencer.
And it grew in a way you weren't expecting and you're grateful for it, but it's not. Like that's not what you set out as well too. Like you didn't set out to be an influencer. Exactly.
Yes,
to make your whole life around your social media growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a grind. Like it's insane. And Miami's kind of like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine.
Well, there's less legitimacy with it in Miami. Like I feel like people hustle in LA and New York, but they really do actually get shit done. And they have the talent and the legitimacy to back it up. In Miami, you can hustle with no substance. It's like wild. Like you can hustle and you're like, how is that guy doing so well? He doesn't do anything kind of thing, which I guess you can encounter that anywhere. But I had like a friend of mine who I do have a pass with, who I hook up with from time to time again. And he's also a comic. And when we had like recently hooked up about a month and a half ago, I was like, well, yeah, I have to, you know, go home because I've been out of a laptop for the last couple days. And I was like, my laptop's ready and it's fixed and it's at the Apple store in Miami. So I have to get home and get back on my laptop. And this is, mind you, after a work trip in another city where I did like, probably knowing me, like 11 shows and 3 podcasts and whatever. And like, it was such a small moment, but I guess it was interesting because it came from him. And he was like, what are you rushing for?
Oh.
Yeah, like he was like, what do you have to do on your laptop?
Yeah.
He's like, you're out here working already. Like, why do you need to get to your laptop already?
Yeah.
And like, granted, I work a lot harder than he does. No offense, but you know what I mean? Like I do, but like it did kind of put into perspective that I was like, yeah, I have been waking up every day, even weekend days. I wake up and my first thought is like, check Instagram, followers, messages. Then I go right to email.
Yeah.
Who didn't write back? What did my management agent send it? What did I?
God!
Like
I'll be in the middle. I'll be at the club, just like, what emails do I have?
Oh, literally, yeah. And then people are like, "Oh, that's so rude. You're on your phone. You're texting." I'm like, "No, I'm like obsessed with work." But that's like really exhausting to not like. It took a second for me to realize that like I'm not even allowing myself to like open my eyes and start my day. I'm like literally starting every day like. Like, you know, and
okay, here's something that you should do.
Yeah.
I'm not consistent with it, but it is something that I like to do.
Yes. Also, I'm listening. I just realized I need to text our next guest my cell number, but go ahead.
When you wake up, first thing in the morning.
Panic attack.
Nah, I get that, girl. First thing when you wake up, you know, open your eyes before you even touch that phone, which I know mine's always like less than a foot away from me, which is probably terrible.
And the alarm goes off and I'm like,
yep, no.
Yeah.
even as the alarm is going off, say out loud 3 things you're thankful for.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Just start with that. And sometimes it can be as silly as like, oh, I'm so thankful I woke up today.
I'm thankful I have great hair.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for the fuzzy socks on my feet.
Exactly. I'm thankful for this comfy ass bed. Just 3 things. Say it real quick. Do that, and I promise you it helps.
I like that a lot. I've also, what I have done on certain days as I've tried to undo these bad habits is I've also taken 3 deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Or I like go to my cat in Miami, like first, like I don't even check my phone. I just go to her. She's such a source of like cuddles and love and unconditional dopamine and like whatever. And I just like go straight to her or something. But yeah, that's really good. I mean, I've even started doing that too, like with the existential, I'm not doing enough, am I stuck? And that whole rabbit hole that I've gone down, I've really actively started like everything can go away in the blink of an eye, in a second. It all can. That your favorite person or your job or your success or your followers or whatever. So it even got to the point where I was not like taking advantage of stage time, but getting on stage is my favorite thing in the world. And I was burnt out. So I was dreading it. Or I was like upset that I wasn't getting certain industry things in my career. And then it was making me less present for shows that people were coming to. So I'm not even religious. Well, that's another conversation because I'm revisiting certain things about Catholicism in a way that I never have before and all that. But
you are a dynamic human. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Thank you. I like that. Thank you for the reminder. But I've been starting like, I say thank you, God, before I walk on stage. Whoever God is, whatever God is. I don't even know anymore.
Could be an alien.
Could be an alien.
Exactly. But
could be Beyonce. I don't know. But I go, people are here and they're about to watch you and you get to do what you love and you're going to get paid tonight. Some nights it's a lot of money. Some nights it's $20 and a drink ticket. But regardless, right before I walk on stage and I look out at a crowd of living, breathing human beings that want to watch comedy or watch me, I've been like, wow, this is awesome. Thank you.
Exactly. That right there, I think I had that same moment with my job in the sense that like I understand exactly that feeling where you're just like, wow, I'm really burned out. One of the lessons that one of my friends instilled in me, he's an astrologer, and we were going over the sign of Leo, and Leo is also the sign of gratitude. And my friend was like, how do you get to keep something? You show it gratitude.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember last year I was feeling very burnt out with like my ad sales job. Yeah. So, selling ads for my pod and other podcasts. And I was really starting to get down on myself. I was hating it and I didn't, and I just wasn't feeling good with it at all. Mm-hmm. And I started showing it gratitude. I was like, you know what? I'm still thankful for this job. It pays my bills. Yeah. It's in my industry that I enjoy. Yep. And it's, tied to my podcast and it brings me income. So like, I'm going to show this gratitude. And now it's like, I love this job. Yeah. Yeah. A year later of showing it a bunch of gratitude, I'm like, you know what? This has been a constant for me. My boss has been very understanding of me, like through, different points in my life. Yep. I have the schedule flexibility that I like. I've learned a lot in this position. Yeah. A lot of valuable skills. I'm like, I'm going to show this gratitude, and it completely changed my perspective.
I love that. Also, it puts an emphasis on the importance of also having like good friends. I will also say too, I'll add to that because I have had 2 friends remind me of exactly where I'm at and how far I've come to, and I can be very isolated at times. Like I really am a loner. I'm like an introvert that masks as an extrovert. And I had seen Amy Poehler post something about how she's she's high functioning and like so high functioning when she's at work and so good and so productive and so on. And then like when she's done, she's like useless basically. And then that's how like she oscillates and like it swings from one extreme to the next. And I do feel that way about my life as well too. So I say that to say that I could be very isolated. I dissociate like so hard. Yeah. Like I could really like go off grid, go out into my own, and that's not good. So I've had friends and relying on people and it's really helped pull me kind of out of my own head and remind me of like, didn't you say this time last year that you wanted to be on tour and you wanted to not be in Miami as much? You wanted to be on the road. Yeah. Aren't you? Yeah. Okay. Didn't you say you wanted to work in radio? Yeah. You got the job, right? Yeah. Okay. I quit it, but because the schedule was rough. But like, you know what I mean? So it's also, it's that, but yeah, gratitude is, I love that. Like you have to show gratitude to the things you love, and that's how you keep them. You nurture them, and that includes yourself as well. But I want to touch on something because you are in a monogamous relationship. I'm sure you've talked about this a lot on your podcast.
I started to, yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to. And you've taught me a lot about non-monogamy. Your podcast is very centered on that, or was centered on that. What made you turn your perspective towards monogamy from being, because you seemed so happy in non-monogamy and embraced it, and I loved your perspective on it. So I'm just interested in seeing, was it the person, the time, the situation?
Well, I think so, and this is a confusing part. Nikki was more non-monogamous than I ever was.
Okay.
She tried many different versions of it: open marriage, solo polyamory, being in a throuple.
A throuple is like a threesome, but like with you're dating.
Yeah.
You're involved with these people. Okay.
So it's just like she's gone through these varying stages. I was always just like a member of the community in the sense that like I very much lean monogamous. But I was in a polyamorous relationship.
Okay.
And in that poly relationship, I really learned that like romantically, I'm monogamous. Sexually, I'm very much mostly monogamous.
Wow.
In the sense of that like, if I really love someone, they're the only person that I want to have sex with.
So that's me. That's why I've never been able to be open, or I haven't embraced or really attempted it. Because if I really like someone, they really are the only person I want to. Yeah.
But I feel like what being in the community has taught me is, just being able to be open-minded and not letting, how do you say it? Like little things don't have to be like such a big deal. It's really helped me kind of break down my ego in a sense.
Okay.
That's a great way to explain it. Not that it's fully, it's fully gone. Your ego is always going to be there. You just have to become friends with it.
I'm a big fan of the ego.
Yeah.
Especially on this podcast. I think everybody needs to have a little ego.
No, I think everyone
and a little pride.
Yeah. I think everyone needs to get to know their ego.
Yeah.
Like what makes it tick? What nurtures it?
Yeah.
Those two things right there are like pivotal.
And the more you get to know it, the more you're going to know when it needs to come out and have your back, and also when it needs to be checked.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't be absent of an ego.
Yeah. But being overly aware of your ego is also just kind of like really nice.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, when you're being a cunt, or like, when it's just your ego acting up, you know?
Self-awareness is my favorite trait ever.
I've become a lot more self-aware over the past like year and a half.
I love that.
That's been a really fun journey, and I'm very thankful to be here. I think that's what's aligned me. The self-awareness has aligned me with my current partner, I feel.
Okay. Beautiful.
But yeah, I think, I'm monogamous, but I've been reborn from a non-monogamous lens. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
And I feel like that's given me a lot of like exposure to just how you can cater your relationship to be exactly what you want it to be. And I feel like it's just going to empower me more as I continue this relationship with my current boyfriend, because I feel like he and I are going to get married.
Really? So he's the one?
I feel that way.
Okay.
And
what sign?
He's a Gemini.
Oh, so compatible with a Libra.
Yes.
Yeah. We love.
Scorpio moon, which is very compatible with my Scorpio placements.
Okay.
So, and my Venus is close to his ascendant. His Venus is close to my ascendant.
Okay.
So that's also really nice. You know astrology.
I know exactly what you're, if you're listening and you don't, just Google it. It's everything. The internet's available
I'll show you the charts later.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just, I will say it's very.
Keita's laughing.
It's very interesting, having to tell, like my lifestyle friends, you know, the people that, like I kiss the girls in the group, I hooked up with some of the guys, and it's like telling them like, hey, I'm monogamous now. That's been kind of fun, Because it's like, it's so different. It's like now there's like this new boundary where it's like, oh, no, we can't just kiss on the mouth when we see each other just to say hello as friends grabbing lunch.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about that? That boundary setting and that change is no different than somebody, let's say, I'm not even talking non-monogamy. That's no different than somebody that's been in your life in rotation sexually for a couple years. And then like sometimes you start dating someone, sometimes they start dating someone. And then like when you run into them and you immediately think you're going to rekindle sexually, and then they have to be like, I started seeing someone. Yeah. And then you're like, whoa. Like, it's the same feeling where you have to, like, pivot back.
But I love it because, like, all my ex-partners, all my friends, like, the girls that I've hooked up with before, they're all so, like, supportive. They're like, oh, my God, I'm so happy for you.
I love
you're
it.
in this relationship. Like, can't wait to meet him, blah, blah, blah. So, like, that part's been super cool. Yeah. But it definitely is, like, it is a transition. Yeah. And I don't know. I really loved it.
I would imagine that going from a non-monogamous and really exploring that and allowing yourself to succeed and fail in all of that and all of those intricacies, I would imagine that from moving from that back to monogamy, it allows you to kind of approach monogamy, and correct me if I'm wrong, with a new like levity or with a like a sensitivity to things in a good way. Like you're like, okay, I've navigated what would be considered on the surface the most complicated emotional and sexual relationships because multiple people and feelings are involved and statuses and whatever. So now you're kind of able to go back to monogamy. Do you feel more like considerate? Do you feel more sensitive? Like, what do you feel on the other side of it?
I feel like this is a good example. Like, I remember, when was it? Maybe like a week ago. I got jealous for a moment. Yeah. Something, that occurred between my boyfriend and I. And I told him straight away,
I love that
that I was feeling jealous for a moment. And we immediately talked about it. And that was, that was great for me because he gave me the exact reassurance that I needed. And, we talked it through. But I also I knew exactly what it was, where the source was from, why this feeling was coming up. Yeah. But I knew it wasn't detrimental to our relationship. I just knew that it was something that I needed to voice so we could discuss it. Yeah. And I feel like in the past, before, being in the non-monogamous container, I feel like maybe I would have marinated on it more. Yeah. I would have maybe not felt so empowered to bring it up. I don't know. But it was in that moment that I was like, I feel like I had the tools. Yeah.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. Well, because in order to make I would assume polyamorous relationships work.
It's so much communication.
It's so much communication. And
to a detriment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm sure at some point you're like, I didn't need to know that. Okay, great. Or whatever. Yeah, there's such a thing as too much. But it's interesting you brought up jealousy because I was thinking of that emotion right before you shared what you just shared. And I think jealousy is one of those feelings that we are afraid to communicate. Oh, yeah. That plainly and that matter of fact because we feel like it makes us look insecure. Exactly. Or we feel like it makes us look weak. And I've talked about this on this podcast that whenever I meet people, especially women particularly, that are like, I never get jealous. I've never been jealous. I'm always like, bullshit. Yeah. Jealousy is one of the many human emotions.
Oh, absolutely. We're all going to go through it at some point.
You will go through it at some point. It does not mean you are lacking anything. If anything, I think if anything, jealousy is an emotion of your current situation and it playing in contrast to something or someone else. Yeah. I think it can show you, especially when it's attached to career, it can show you maybe a goal you didn't even know was on your list. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I love that you did that because things like jealousy, especially in romantic relationships, we don't just plainly communicate. You're 100%, we're embarrassed to. There's this shame, and it's not going to make it go away. It just festers resentment and paranoia.
Exactly.
As opposed to being like, you know what? I feel jealous over whatever XYZ thing is. It's and just naming those things.
And it can be really small too. And I can understand that someone may feel silly for being oh, I, got jealous over this. And it was a really maybe small stupid thing. Yeah. But it's no, but you felt the emotion.
Yeah. So you just vocalize
say
it. Yeah.
I mean, I feel especially My relationship with jealousy has been so interesting in the sense of that, like,
Mine too.
early on, when because think about, like, I have a twin.
Yeah.
And
your lives are so parallel and intertwined.
And how often am I compared to her?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
I feel like early on, especially in my early 20s, she graduated. She got a really nice offer from a job. She, found her first husband in college. They got married. She was just checking the boxes.
So
left
living
and right.
so close to all of those traditional box checking moments must have made you feel a certain way.
And I was not doing any of those. I had depression. I was barely passing college. I didn't have a job lined up. I had to just make ends meet for the longest time. I was struggling for a bit. And, I was very jealous of Nicole for a very long time.
Yeah.
But during that time is when I really got to like come to a breakthrough where it was just like, no, we're just in different times of our lives.
Yeah.
And that was like my first taste of jealousy. And then after that, it was when I got in a long-term relationship. Then it was like, making sure I wasn't being jealous of, my partner at the time. And if like a girl went up to him to talk to him at a bar or something, because he's just getting drinks and I'm over here in this corner, whatever, so it's just like and then when I was in the poly relationship, jealousy was a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Because like it was okay that he was talking to other girls, but I still felt insecure. So I've had all these different moments with jealousy where it's just like it's taught me so much about like just having like my own, sense of worth, always knowing like who I am and knowing the difference of like, oh, I'm just feeling this emotion, because maybe it's not a mindset of like lack, but the perspective needs to be shifted.
Yeah.
So,
and I also feel like going through a polyamorous relationship is almost like being in a jealousy boot camp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, it's like, you're like, whoa, we're
exactly.
It's
you
like
better
exposure
learn.
therapy.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. To insecurity and jealousy and possessiveness. And like, I've almost considered being in an open situation or being open to those things to try to, and I still think at my core, I'm like you, where I will still be like monogamous at my core.
Yeah.
Like just naturally and intrinsically, but I've considered exploring polyamory if only to healthily beat some of these tendencies out of me. And like, and just have to be forced to feel these things and process it in a health. That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that helped me a lot in being able to tackle jealousy to where like, I don't let it affect me so much.
Yeah.
And I know how to work through it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important part for me is that like I know how to work through it. So
yeah.
It's such an interesting emotion. And I feel like, especially like having, been monogamous and then being in the non-monogamous community.
Yeah.
You really see when people haven't done the work.
Ooh,
on jealousy.
Yeah.
On jealousy, on, their attachment style.
Yeah.
Like things like that. It becomes very apparent the minute, and I can just like almost sense it right away in someone where I'm just like, oh, they haven't dealt with their ego, jealousy, all of that.
Yeah.
And it's very, I don't know. It's
very telling. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, my experience, I've had an interesting journey with jealousy as well too.
Yeah.
And I do think certain partners can exacerbate your tendencies with jealousy because I do think, but it also was all about like what you can handle, like if you find yourself to be, I'm not even going to say that you're a person that gets jealous more often. I'm going to just use the words like you have a higher sensitivity to jealousy or you haven't worked through how to manage it, then you probably shouldn't be with someone who tends to lean a little more naturally flirtatious or social. Or,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you might be better suited to be with that person when you work through things, or maybe you're just not a fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's either you strap in and,
and deal with it.
You get to know it, or it's like you have to, because I understand that like, especially with emotions that you don't know how to deal with, people will like hold that in, lock it up. And that really causes issues, right?
Yeah.
Like not just, for I don't know, just like ignoring it makes it fester even more.
Sorry,
So.
just like I'm ignoring my sinus infection that I'm
No,
dealing
you're
with.
good. Also, I love the things in your hair.
Thanks so much. Thank
Yeah.
you. I've gotten so many random compliments on this.
I
and
love it.
Thank you. A lady after one of my shows in Tampa, St. Pete, was like, can I put tinsel in your hair? And I was like, fucking yeah, sure, whatever. But yeah, I love that. And I at least for me, love you. Hell yes. Our producer just tossed me tissues to stuff my bra as well too. Big yikes.
And do it right into the mic.
Oh my god.
There you go. Really get that
Sweet
ASMR moment.
relief. Oh god, there's some guy. Listen, you can sell this on OnlyFans. Some guy will come to this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep the tissue. They'll buy that too.
Oh god, it feels so good. I've been hitting it so hard during my LA trip, and my immune system.
My allergies have really spiked up this past week.
Yeah, mine too. And a couple of my friends who I've been staying with as well have been experiencing the same like stuffy, runny. So I think it's just the change in LA. And
Yeah.
104 degrees.
Also the fires.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my eyes were tearing really hard the other day too. Okay, that's fuck LA. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, on jealousy, I think I'm actually in a good. I'm finally in a really good place with my jealousy.
Good.
Yeah, and it's I don't feel it as often, or when I feel it, I actually finally feel secure enough in my body and myself, or my assets, or my abilities to combat it, or to like address it.
Yeah.
And I actually believe myself now. I think I actually genuinely like myself now at 33. I think I liked myself the most in the last 2 years of my life. I think the years before that, I thought I liked myself. And I didn't dislike myself, but I didn't really love myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would
Yes.
tell you that I loved myself, and I would tell you that I was really confident in my skin. And I
Yeah.
think I wanted to be. And I think I thought I was in theory, but it was definitely one of those things. And it was always 9 times out of 10 in romantic relationships where my words didn't match my actions with that. Because I would say I really loved myself and I was confident and I was secure and I was all these things. But then I would, flip the fuck out with every guy or every girl that he followed on it, or every, and I was like, okay. There isn't, and I don't know. Now I think when I do experience jealousy, I'm able to hold space for it, and then I can also create space for like, yeah, but I'm really funny too. Yeah, but I'm hot as well. Yeah, but I'm awesome. Or so I can hold space for both.
Yeah. I will report back how I feel at 33.
Okay,
But I will say I've had a very telling situation happen this year that I feel like has expedited me loving myself
okay.
this year.
Okay.
So it's
Can we learn about it?
Yeah. So
Is this the big yikes moment?
yes, it is.
Yay! Yay!
So I moved into the place I'm at now October of last year.
Okay.
And November, so a few weeks later, my neighbors, the unit right across from me, we can see the way the buildings are set up, we can kind of see into each other's living rooms.
Ooh. Hot. Creepy.
My neighbors moved in.
Okay.
And I started fucking one of them.
Nice.
He's 24.
Oh. Nice.
And now at this point I had been single for about 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
I had broken up with the poly guy. I had been single. I was really getting
You were with poly guy for a while.
about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I haven't seen you since. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were with him when I saw you last year in September.
No, I had just gotten out of it
Got
in
it.
July.
Got it.
So I started hooking up with my neighbor. A little situation happened, and it basically like we weren't exclusive or anything. We hadn't discussed it. And one drunken night, I had like brought another dude home.
Oh, and he did not like that.
No.
And he could see it.
Yeah, and so he brought another girl home. He like immediately brought a girl home. And it started a very vicious cycle of like us, like we fought, we made up, we would fight, we'd make up, and his way of always getting back to me was
bringing another girl home.
yes.
Yeah.
that I would have to see
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
And, and he's younger.
And you were bringing somebody home just out of like,
that was just one
I'm
time.
single. We haven't discussed anything.
Yeah.
So there was no intent or motive behind it.
No, I wasn't trying to be hurtful.
Right.
I think I was just,
Living your life. Yeah.
But oh man, this went on. So we started like late November, early December. By mid-December, it was fucked. And then it was this ongoing cycle until about May.
That's a lot to live nearby. That's a lot to
Talk
deal
about
with.
exposure therapy.
Oh my God.
Talk about the ego.
Did you label at any point what it was that was actually like, did you also being the older,
We never,
and I hate incorporating age into relationships because I have trauma associated with that with two of my ex-boyfriends who were older and constantly were like, I'm smarter than you. I've been married before. I know better. But as the older, presumably more mature person in the situation, did you ever label to him like, I know what we're doing? Didn't address it? I'm so curious.
I feel like as soon as I noticed the pattern, which I'm not gonna lie, it took me like, damn near 2 months to like realize like, oh, this is just what he's going to do.
To process.
This is how I'm allowing it to happen. I got way too attached.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I went down, like, my vibrations just lowered.
Yeah, that's low vibration stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a lot of work on my ego. It was a lot of work with jealousy because I had to see him bring girls over all the time. He knew exactly what buttons to press for me.
Yeah.
But I was stuck. I was attached. And, and all of my friends were like, why the fuck are you doing this? Because
you were still sleeping with him.
Exactly. They're like, why are you putting up with this? Like, obviously he's doing these things to hurt you and you keep letting him back into your life. You're just, making up and then going right back into the same cycle. He's not giving you the things you need. He's lying to you. You're not being true to yourself. Like all of these things. And then, we finally ended it, many months in.
Yeah.
To the detriment of my confidence, the detriment of, just like my self-worth.
Yeah.
I felt so shitty. I was so like just really down bad. And then, we ended things and I still just had to watch him bring girls over. And then it was just like really like, then I had to, oh man, it was just such a mind fuck.
Can I ask if were you sleeping with other people during this time? Or were you bringing them home or going to their place?
I had not brought a guy home.
Wow.
He never saw it. So during the times that like he and I were off, I would just like go to other people's places. I would never make him witness that.
Because you didn't want to exacerbate or poke at the situation.
Correct.
So you were considerate in a way that he wasn't thinking to be. Didn't want to be. Okay. Men, am I right?
And it's just, it was just, I look back at it now and I'm like, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I've learned, because I had so many like bodily reactions, like heart palpitations, like,
anxiety,
like
pain.
the body anxiety of like, everything, panic attacks, shakes, all of that, from seeing him bring girls over.
Yeah.
And I really got to know that part of myself even more than I already had in the poly relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, it was one of the, and I know this sounds probably to like some people listening, they're like, what the fuck, that's stupid, and also like, don't be ridiculous. But like when I say it was one of the hardest things I've had to do, it actually was.
Yeah.
Because like I had to witness it every day.
Yeah.
And it's not like I could remove myself from the situation and heal and, like give it space. It's like,
you had to live right alongside it.
It's like I had to see him every day.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lie. It really took me meeting my boyfriend now to like fully let go.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
In the sense of like, and it's not like, it's like, that my boyfriend now is a distraction or everything. No, but it really having a partner who communicates with me, who makes me feel safe, who, is always down to discuss our emotions and like really work on things together and reciprocates energy and doesn't play mind games.
Yeah.
Having that really woke me up. And then I was able to look back at the past 6 months and I was like, wow, yeah, that guy really played me.
Yeah.
And like that really happened.
Yeah.
And my brain, for some reason, got addicted to that dopamine hit and the drops and, the full wave of the cycle.
Yeah, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off.
Exactly.
I'm sure the sex was great as well too, but also it's I think people, and I would lean towards saying specifically women also too, because we seek this approval in so many areas of our lives. Like, we're just raised traditionally different than boys are, right? We're raised to be pretty and present differently and be the great mom, but also be great in bed, but also have the great career. There's definitely there's a beautiful, eloquent monologue in the Barbie movie about it. Yeah. That does a way better job of trying to say what I'm trying to say that I am doing right now. So I think as a woman, I would say it also plays to that, like, I'm not good enough. I'm not hot enough.
Yeah.
I'm not this enough. I'm not good enough to make that money that my male counterparts, whatever it is. So watching that, you end up realizing that subconsciously you're always seeking the approval of that guy.
Yeah.
You're always seeking, and that's addictive.
Yeah.
That's entirely, it's like that. It's like chasing the cheese. Like, it's like you're like a rat in a lab or whatever. And I mean, I had to break that pattern as well too, where like there were definitely, I think that's a common thread in some men that I've had situationships or pseudo relationships with, especially over the last couple of years as well too, where I was like, I really want him to want me. And I really subconsciously want to get him or be, and I don't even know if I wanted to change or fix some of them. I think I just was like, I want to be the best sex out of all the other girls that he's having sex with.
Ego,
all ego. Or like, oh, he comes back to me.
Yeah.
Or he's the most attracted to me.
Do you have abandonment issues?
I do not.
Do you have daddy issues?
No.
Oh.
Well, but here's the thing.
Oh.
I don't. On the surface, I don't. I have two wonderful parents. I'm an only child. So a lot of the traumatizing relationship shit that I've gone through, people ask me that. Like, did a parent leave? Were you hit as a kid? Were you, like, what's making you gravitate towards this? I mean, I will say now at 33, and especially like changing my relationship with alcohol and being sober a lot more, I have had some really clear, crazy, like, remembering shit that did happen in my childhood. Not like crazy, I was touched, raped, beaten, not anything, but like, oh, that's a weird memory. Like, I wonder if that is why I seek out this validation from like even with my mom and my dad. Like, again, nothing child services level, but like, I'm like, I remember like this game or this moment or this and I'm like, I wonder if that planted a seed. But I mean, for me, I do think growing up, I was smaller and a late bloomer. And I do have a couple traumatizing moments. I had a moment, I guess I'm sharing a big yikes, but I was in theater and dance in school.
Oh, yeah.
And
you get compared a lot there.
You get compared a lot there. I think it did a huge detriment on my, like,
there it is, yeah.
I actually can spot that in other women too. Competitive dance and competitive cheerleading. And I can spot when it's healed and when it's not.
Oh,
because it's real, like, pick me energy.
Yeah.
And it's like ingrained in you from this very young, vulnerable, formative age. And you're like, oh yeah. Like, and I had it too.
I was in cheer. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was in dance. Yeah. And theater. And I have a memory of changing in a dressing room, pseudo bad dressing room behind a curtain, and literally, was this middle school? It might not have even been high school. It might have just been middle school. When, like, everyone's bodies are starting to change. Maybe someone's getting boobs really quick or someone's not or whatever.
I was always comparing my boobs to everyone else's.
Oh my God, I wanted boobs so bad. So bad. And I
had to buy them.
And good for you. I gained 15 pounds in the last year, so now they're here. Now they're here in a way they've never been. Thank you. They're here in a way they've never been, and we're happy for it. But a boy found me, the fucking Charles Benitez, his name was this fucking asshole. He was he made fun of so many people, and he saw me naked. He saw me changing at rehearsal. And then I said, oh my God. And he opened the curtain again. And then he went and like rubbed it in everybody's face that he saw me naked, and also made fun of my body to my peers.
That's
and
horrible.
Really, really, really horrible. And I also grew up in Miami where I was dating like guys that wanted thicker.
Yeah.
It is cultural. And like I had a guy I dated in college who was like very into me, and I remember one night after having sex, like he made a remark about like, he goes, well, you do have like the body of a child. Or something. And I was like, well, I think you should look inward because your dick was really hard while you were fucking this body of a child. Like, don't you want to look at that? Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
like we should both dissect this now.
I think we should both unpack this. So yeah, I definitely think there were some moments of like that you bury that are going to come out as an adult. And you're like, maybe this is where this string of needing approval from guys that seem too cool.
I mean,
whatever.
We grow up in a society where we're always seeking approval and validation anyway, too.
Yeah.
Just as an individual, too.
Yeah.
And that makes it really hard. But I mean, I was definitely, with the situationship neighbor guy, like, for some reason, my ego was just so attached to gaining his approval.
Yeah.
That it took me a long time to snap out of it. And sometimes, like, you get in a situation where it's like your brain recognizes like, oh, I've been here before. Yeah. And then it doesn't want to leave that pattern.
It doesn't. Well,
because it's like, wow, like I know exactly how this ends because I've been here before.
Well, it seeks
back to
comfort.
Those,
Exactly.
Back to those, buried memories.
I have been in the last like year and a half, and this is probably textbook unhealthy, but I actually love it. I have been almost exclusively only sleeping with men that I already have a history with. And it's not always the most positive history, but I do think that in a weird way, I'm doubling back and like
rewriting it,
healing, closing the loop, closing the door. And it's nice to not be on bad terms with them anymore. And I'm maybe even seeing where I took things not too seriously per se, but too personally.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to revisit them with the new confidence that I have and take certain, I don't know. It's been very like empowering and healing. I'm not saying by any means I recommend this to anybody. I'm like, oh, go back and fuck all the men that screwed you over. I'm not endorsing that, but it's been happening because it's hard for me to connect with new men. I'm already connected to these older flames. And it's, yes, historically we have a rocky past, but it's also been kind of nice to be in control this time, I guess.
But also like time can definitely heal.
Yeah.
But also, and just add a different, like, it can definitely separate you from the situation. As you said, you're not taking things as personally anymore.
Yeah.
I had a play partner from like 3 years ago. He and I were so casual. I was in a point in my life where I was just like having a hoe phase.
Yeah.
And, he kind of was too. And at one point we disconnected.
Sexually or on every level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, on every level. Like he got a girlfriend. He unfollowed me on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 3 years.
Yeah.
He follows me again. And actually this was earlier this year. And we reconnected, but just as like the like homies, BFFs, emotional support BFF, not an ounce of it is sexual.
You don't think at all he wants to get back in there?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah. He and I are both. And it's great.
I have a theory men never really just want to be friends.
Well, because like he knows.
Yeah.
He knows about my boyfriend. He's so happy for me. He's very supportive. Like we've been there for each other through a lot of like, he was there through the situationship with my neighbor.
Yeah.
I've been there to like, help him as he, transitions out of a relationship. So, and we even joke about it now where it's just like, haha, like we used to fuck. Now it's like I look at you and it's like, nah. So it's like time can definitely change dynamics.
It can. Well, because you are going to change and they're going to change. Ideally, hopefully that's the case.
But I think it's okay if you're revisiting old relationships.
It's nice to be friends with them.
Yeah.
It's nice to not have it be so black and white, door open, door closed. I think I wanted a relationship, or I thought I wanted a relationship more back then. So I was holding them to a way different standard than what they were able to give me. And it really is okay if people can't give you what you need. I think it's okay. Like you also have to hold space for like they're not in a position to give you what you need. That doesn't make them a bad person.
Yeah.
They just don't have those, they're out of stock when it
Yeah.
comes to those traits or that attention or whatever, that availability. So I held them to a different standard, and I was a lot more reactive and very block, unfollow with a lot of men that, like, with some of these men that don't really have a huge impact in my life.
Yeah.
They were just in a moment of romantic and sexual connection. And I guess I didn't allow myself to enjoy them. I
Yeah.
was very like, I'm either going to get what I want out of this, which is, I guess, subconsciously was a relationship.
Mhm.
And if I'm not, then they can't be in my life and
Yeah.
and
Now,
away.
do you feel like you're meeting them where they're at? Like how
and
they
they're
can-
meeting me where I'm at.
Exactly. Like y'all can meet each other where it's like you're at the level of what you can provide each other, and you're at that understanding.
Yeah, and I think I've for lack of a better term, chilled out, and I'm still very much so not a chill girl, and I take a lot of pride in that. I have no chill with anything in my life, and I like that about me, but I think I've chilled out in that area of my life, and I think revisiting them helps that, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I know I don't want to be with you, but I can honor that we do like each other as human beings.
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
we're still able to have good sex.
Yeah.
So maybe now we can have this and let it be whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Just
it's
let
really
it
nice.
flow.
Let it flow, which I've notoriously just been horrible at. So it's been a big thing for me. Yeah.
It's like your career in comedy. Just let it flow.
Just let it flow.
It really is about that. And honestly, like, it's okay to not be a chill girl. I always say I'm an emotional little bitch, is what I
Yeah.
say. And I remember my boyfriend the other day was like, yes, but you're my emotional little bitch.
That's
and I was
the
just like,
goal.
I was like crying. I was like,
Oh,
oh my
that's
God,
the-
do you really mean that?
That's
Like,
the goal.
do you mean it? You know?
Yeah, where you're like, I'm a lot. And he's like, you are, but
You're my lot.
You're my lot. And it's just enough for me. And it's like, yeah. And maybe that's also what the solace is too, and all these old flames, is that on some level, they've also accepted me
Yeah.
for what I am.
There
And
you
they
go.
know that I'm a spitfire or don't have chill. And they kind of know how to navigate it now as well too. But I also have finally abandoned that whole, like, I hate men that need a second chance and make him come crawling back. And I actually helped a flame of mine that I hooked up with a month and a half ago heal from that too, because he finally admitted, like, I don't like being ignored. I like the chase. I don't like being blocked. It drives me crazy. I don't like not getting what I want. I go, well, most people don't. But and I even told him, I was like, for your sake, and I have no motive from saying this, I was like, as somebody who cares for you and has known you now for a couple years and we've been through the fire, I was like, you should fix that.
Yeah.
Because that's like an empty chase.
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean? And I think girls fall for it too, where it's like, I'm going to pull away because I want to see. If you're pulling away just to see if he runs, that is so exhausting.
Yeah. No.
And you're still never going to get what you want.
the minute
You're
you
just
start,
going to get the, like,
Yep.
oh, he's back, and that's it. Yeah.
the minute you start playing a game is when you've already lost.
You've lost. So it's a lot easier to just text him and be like, I'd like to sleep with you again tonight. I'd like to see you. And then either see if he can show up for you or not. But don't do this like, I'm going to pull away and then look really hot on my Instagram story. And then I'm going to show up. And then when he texts, I'm not like, I'm like, you're never going to get what you want. But I told him this too.
Yeah.
Like pillow talk after sex a couple weeks ago. Like I was like, you need to fix that
Yeah.
as your friend. Like you have to get okay with, like, you can't always... Because I'm like, what ends up happening? You get that person to respond to you. You get the communication you want. I'm like, and then I know you. You
It's
go
a
right back.
dopamine hit.
It's a dopamine hit, and then you go right back to your fuckboy tendencies.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you need to sit with, like, sometimes, like, people are going to ignore you. You're not going to get what you want. You're not. And he was like, yeah. And I think the two of us were like, whoa. That
Well,
we're
but
able
also,
to,
like,
yeah.
the universe will bring you the same lesson until you learn it. Which I always say, the neighbor situationship was, I'm going to call it Mike 2.0.
Okay.
Which Mike was just this other guy that I dated on and off, very
Yeah.
toxic for 2 years.
Yeah, that's a long time to.
2 years.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, but now I feel like I've learned the lesson. But it is just so, yeah, it's so funny how things will come into your life, you know, maybe to trigger you.
Yeah.
You know, like with this guy, you know, maybe you blocking him, like, made him realize this. But it's like,
Yeah.
you have to become aware of it. Because
Yeah.
otherwise it's like, for his next relationship, you know,
It's
He's
just
gotta be
chasing
ready.
an empty feeling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm not surprised, and I'll leave with this. I'm not surprised that you are in the relationship you're in now with someone that you really think could be the one or marriage material and you're like so happy, I am not surprised that you went through this ringer and then the universe brought you him.
Yeah.
I think that's like so kismet, like to me. Like I think, and I went through something similar and I was completely the one at fault last year, and he was as close to somebody I would have wanted to have been my boyfriend or a partner that I've had in years, and I fucked it up, and I really went through the ringer, and I had to heal myself, and he didn't want to get back. I hurt him. It was a whole, I talked about it too much on this podcast, but he was very significant in that I think the universe was like, learn this lesson.
Well, it was like
stop doing this.
It was like an expedited package for me.
Yeah.
And I realized looking back at it now, because like from May through when I met him in August, I feel like there was a lot of work done there by me. It was like an expedited sense of like the work I knew I should have done, you know, before, so that neighbor situation wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And so I look back at it all now and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for my current relationship and, you know, that it happened the way that it did. And I feel proud of myself for learning the lessons that I needed to. So.
I feel proud of you too. I loved this. Thank you for, where can everybody follow you?
You can find me. I am Cami of Cami and Nikki. You can find me at Double Team Podcast or at Cami and Nikki, Niki, on Instagram. And yeah, all of my relevant links are on doubleteampodcast.com.
I love you.
So, and I also just want to say for anyone out there, you know, if you're meant to be with someone, it'll become very apparent and it'll be very easy. Outside of that,
everybody says that.
It'll feel very, oh, trust me, girl.
Yeah.
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 Amazing.
Outside of that, you will know that it is just a lesson.
I love it.
So,
Yay.
But yeah.
Thank you.
And wear condoms.
Yeah. But yeah, be safe.